Long forgotten and shrouded in mystery, a strange reel featuring Charlie Chaplin resurfaced on eBay for just £3.20. Spliced with surreal wartime animation and unauthorized outtakes, it has since earned a chilling nickname, the banned little-known Charlie Chaplin reel. But was this bizarre film simply lost, or was it cursed? Let's uncover the truth behind one of cinema's strangest artifacts. There's a reel. Not many have seen it. Fewer still believe it exists. But somewhere in a private collection sits a 7-minute film, silent, surreal, and wrapped in whispers. They call it Zepped. Others know it only as the banned Chaplin reel. And like all great legends, it begins with a forgotten box, a random eBay listing, and a question that refuses to go away. Why did Chaplin never speak of it? In 2009, a British collector named Maurice Park stumbled upon an old nitrate film canister online, rusted, unlabeled, and offered for a mere £3.20. What he uncovered inside was strange, almost dreamlike. It opened with familiar images: the little tramp, Chaplin's timeless character, wandering through cityscapes in classic black and white. But then it shifted. Zeppelin attacks, bombs falling from the sky, a floating spire in the clouds, a flying sausage version of Kaiser Wilhelm, and Chaplin standing atop it all, fending off the surreal chaos like a marionette trapped in a nightmare. It was clearly not one of his own creations, but the footage was real. Outtakes from Chaplin's 1915 S&A films. Historians believe it was spliced together without his consent, possibly by S&A themselves, to serve as British wartime propaganda during World War I. A film meant to mock the German air raids and lift British spirits. Instead, it vanished. Only one public screening was recorded in 1917. Then it disappeared. No mass release, no press coverage, no surviving copies until that eBay auction nearly a century later. Was it banned? Shelved? Censored for its odd tone? The records are silent, and that silence only deepens the mystery. The reel begins in flickering monochrome, the grainy film stock crackling with age. At first you see the little tramp in his signature bowler and cane, meandering along a fog-blanketed street. Each step is familiar, his jaunty gait, the gentle tumble of his hat, but the shots are brief, jump-cutting between discarded outtakes. The tramp slips on a banana peel, dusts off his trousers, smiles directly into the camera, then abruptly vanishes in the next frame. Without warning, the scene dissolves into animation. A Zeppelin, drawn in crude black outlines, looms over a stylized silhouette of London. The next sequence is a surreal tableau. A spire, perhaps Big Ben reimagined, floats in an empty sky. The camera cuts to Chaplin perched atop its pinnacle, legs crossed as though on a circus tightrope, peering down at a swarm of animated bombs. Each bomb is a simple ovoid with rudimentary fins and a lit fuse that hisses and sputters. As one lands next to him, the tramp eyes it with exaggerated alarm, shuffling away only for it to disappear in a puff of cartoon smoke. Then comes the most macabre vignette, a caricature of Kaiser Wilhelm, rendered as a bloated, grinning sausage with a tiny Pickelhaube helmet. It rolls across a barren field, its meaty body wobbling unnaturally. Random frames flash in, Chaplin's outstretched hand reaching for it. A close-up of his pained grimace as though he's choking on the absurdity. The sausage Kaiser exploding into ink splotches that morph into burning embers. Between these animated horrors, the film keeps returning to Chaplin outtakes, him tipping his hat, bowing or reacting in silent comedy routines. But these snippets are never allowed to settle. They're hacked apart by rapid cuts, each under a second long, so that you never quite register the joke before it's gone. The constant jump editing gives the reel a disorienting, fever dream quality. Finally, the reel ends on a lingering shot, Chaplin's face unnaturally still, staring into darkness. You see the ghostly sheen of nitrate flicker over his eyes. Then the frame scratches out, the film stock tearing in a final, jagged burst, leaving only a burning ember of light and the echo of that silent, surreal laughter. But the reel's resurrection brought with it rumors. Online horror stories claim the film had cursed origins, that it had caused strange deaths, mysterious fires, or madness in those who watched it. Some compared it to the modern myth of the cursed videotape, blurring the line between reality and fiction. A popular Reddit tale called The Cursed Reel described a haunted film fragment that doomed all who viewed it. The similarities were chilling, but there was no documented link to Zepped. And yet the idea lingered. Legends rarely emerge from clarity. They grow in the cracks between what is known and what is imagined. Zepped, the strange, seldom-seen reel associated with Charlie Chaplin, is one of those perfect mysteries. Though grounded in reality, it possesses just enough ambiguity, just enough surrealism, to attract myth like iron to a magnet. First, there's the Chaplin factor. Charlie Chaplin isn't just a silent film star. He's an icon, a symbol of innocence, humor, and universal emotion. The Little Tramp, his most beloved creation, is synonymous with warmth and wit. So when a bizarre wartime reel surfaced in 2009 that featured his image dodging bombs and interacting with animated propaganda, without his involvement, it felt like something had been tampered with. The disconnect between Chaplin's wholesome persona and the strange, almost nightmarish visuals in Zepped left people unsettled. And when something doesn't fit the narrative, we start to invent explanations. Myths step in where logic fades. What made Zepped even more enigmatic was its unauthorized nature. It wasn't a known Chaplin release. In fact, it wasn't even made with his consent. The reel appears to have been assembled by S&A Studios after Chaplin had left, using leftover footage from his early films. They spliced it together with crude animation and absurd wartime imagery, an odd mashup of comedy and chaos. Because it was never officially released and no one really talked about it for nearly 100 years, it became something of a ghost story within film circles. If it was real, why did no one mention it? And if it wasn't meant to be seen, what was it hiding? Its reappearance only deepened the mystery. When Zepped resurfaced in 2009, it wasn't discovered in a dusty archive or recovered by a film historian. No, it was found in a rusty can on eBay, listed for just £3.20. The reel was sold by someone who had no idea what they were holding. The seller was reportedly a man cleaning out his loft in the UK. He listed the item, an unmarked, rusted film canister, as part of a general clear-out. The description was vague, simply stating that it was an old nitrate film reel, but with no mention of Chaplin or its historical value. He set the starting bid at £3.20, around $5, likely assuming it was worthless or simply vintage junk. Of course, the internet played its part. By the 2000s, online forums were flooded with horror stories of cursed media, old VHS tapes, haunted broadcasts, and forbidden cartoons. Zepped fit the mold perfectly. Reddit creepypastas and no-sleep stories imagined deadly consequences for those who watched mysterious old films. One such tale, The Cursed Reel, bore an eerie resemblance to Zepped, though it was entirely fictional. Still, once the comparison was made, people started blurring the line between fact and folklore. The truth is, Zepped is not a curse, nor a hoax. It is real, but the context around it remains murky. Chaplin was known for fiercely guarding his image, so the use of his footage without permission would have been, at the very least, a serious offense. But no lawsuit, no public statement, no trace of acknowledgement was ever made. All that's left is the reel. One copy, one mystery, and a reel of film that plays like a dream fading into nightmare, a collage of comedy, war, and strangeness that never quite fits into history. Some call it lost media, others call it forbidden. But one thing's certain, the banned Chaplin reel is real, and no one knows why it was ever made.